Good afternoon, everybody. This is our News You Can Use, a new video newsletter where I'm introducing your president, our NAIFA president, Paul Shaka. Today, we're going to be recording a new blog post, something that we've been working on together, that we'd like to do a video newsletter for all of our members. And it allows another channel for you to access the information that you need for member benefits, upcoming programs, and much more importantly, the legislation that we're pursuing. So I'm Jennifer Maurer, the executive director. You've probably seen my emails come through, voicemails over the last 2 or 3 years, and now there's a actual video face. We're really trying to personalize the conversations and the communications, especially when you're dealing with a large geographic area of New York State. So today it is our first video news that we're going to be recording, and it will just be a conversation between myself and Paul, but I want to give him a minute to introduce himself as president, talk about 1 or 2 things that the chapter is working on, and then we can jump right into a very exciting legislative win for us this year and give you some updates. So, Paul, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you, Jen. So, yeah, my name is Paul Shaka, and I'm the current president of NAIFA-New York, and I'm honored to hold that role. One of the things that there's a couple of initiatives that we're focusing on here in New York, and they really center around, at the end of the day, they center around product availability. I think when it comes down to it, there's a lot of issues. They filter down and result in whether a product's available or a product is not available. So we're trying, in working with Lyconi, working with DFS directly, trying to make it a bit easier for our advisors, our agents, to service their clients.
Totally. And I think this is a good point to bring up, that your president has represented the chapter and you at the Lyconi annual conference, where he's been able to meet privately and personally with a lot of folks at DFS, not just at Lyconi, but to open doors of communications, which actually led to the success, right? We had a success with 4228.
So I was excited to be invited to the Lyconi event last October as the new president, and I had the opportunity to introduce myself to members of DFS. Some of the members were there from DFS leadership. Some of them were there as attorneys who actually wrote some of the regulations. And my goal was to make and just impress upon them that NAIFA can be their trusted resource. From there, we actually got invited to a couple of meetings with them. One of them was in concert with some other organizations, and the other one was private. And we've made some real tangible progress with some of these, specifically Reg 187, 4228, to name a few.
And I think that's one of the things we want to really emphasize in our legislative update right now. Outstanding success was achieved with the passage of new legislation. And we say new because it was a new bill that will eventually amend 4228 and allow us to modernize that law. I don't know if members know, this law was enacted in 1996 and it has not been updated. And that was from the conversations with DFS. And also, you spent a lot of time with legislatures, I believe.
Yeah, we did. We spent a lot of time in Albany meeting with members of the legislature, expressing to them how their constituents are affected by some of these regulations. And we've gotten a lot of support, a lot of help, in our efforts. So it's been really fruitful. Now we're just waiting for the governor to sign it.
Correct. And that's a process. So members don't always realize that that process of signatures for a bill might extend into the fall. So there might be some call to action campaigns, right? Asking members to send some notes.
Yes.
Yeah. This was a huge win, and I want members to know, and maybe Paul, you can kind of emphasize this point, that, your member dues dollars are so important. You spend so much money protecting your license. And now think of member dues at NAIFA as insurance for keeping your profession the way it needs to be: profitable, thoughtful, and with higher products. And this advocacy effort, which really started last October all the way to now, which will now continue with the governor, allows us to be that voice, which is so critical.
I completely agree. And I had a conversation with somebody recently who asked the question, what do you guys do, right? and I explained to them the effort and the grind that it takes for us to advocate, whether it be on Capitol Hill in Albany or even in Washington, D.C., which we go there annually as well. Things don't just change just because. They change because of the efforts of people on the ground. And without membership, without those foot soldiers, our message is less important to the members of the legislature and to the members of DFS. So that's where your membership is so important. And and your contributions, your dues are very generous, and they're very much appreciated.
And one of the things I like to tell members, I'm okay with you being a checkbook member. That's actually an association staff phrase. Some people don't want to participate and just want to pay their money, but that allows us to hire Greenberg Traurig, which is one of the top 5 lobbyists in the entire state of New York. They're highly respected. They
Yep.
work very closely with Paul. Paul, you talked a bit about the grind, the workhorses that are on the ground. And I think this
Yeah.
is another transition to Reg 187 and talking about we've been doing some promotions and a campaign on growing our thought leader cohorts. And we have a work group now on long-term care, on employee benefits, and Reg 187. So
Right.
let's give our members a little update on what we're trying to do there.
So specifically with 187, the initial meeting with the gentleman who wrote 187 at the Lyconi conference happened last year. It was followed up by another meeting, and then finally a private meeting, which we had an hour and a half with him. I drove up to Albany. I sat with this gentleman. His name was Peter, with one of my lobbyists from Greenberg Traurig. And we expressed some of the consequences that result from some regulations, right? And he, fully admitted that they don't necessarily see what happens downstream. And he really appreciated our input, our clarity as to what the consequences of regulations may be. And he offered us the opportunity to come back and circle back with him with something tangible, perhaps some kind of proposal to streamline this process. So I'm really excited about that, and it couldn't have happened without the folks at GT, Greenberg Traurig, and the other members of the board, and NAIFA members all around the state who helped, whether it be with a phone call or an email to a legislator, or an in-district meeting, perhaps. So every contribution helps towards the final goal, and I think that we're starting to see the fruits of that labor.
And the fruits of that labor, I think this is another point to explain to members that even though you may not hear from NAIFA every single day, we don't take a break just because it's summer. We have had some work group meetings. We have a team of volunteers. And if someone would like to be on that work group, just give me a call or give me an email. It's jmaurer@naifa.org. But they have been going through and putting the work, like rolling up our sleeves. We're not just using this video newsletter to just talk words. We're actually putting together a proposal. We can't talk about it, of course, on this newsletter because it's confidential until we get it worked on. But it's important. I'm going to let Paul expound a little bit further on that we're actually getting something going. We're not just complaining. We're not just talking. We're not just saying, yeah, we really need to fix 187. No, it's actually happening. And while it's an arduous process, we actually have the players in place to do it. Isn't that right?
We do, and we're trying to be very strategic in how we approach this. As you pointed out, Jen, you can't knock on their door and just start complaining. You can't.
I would like to.
You might like to. It'll make my job twice as hard then.
Yeah.
No, but what you have to do, it's got to be a series of touch points, right? And it has to be from a positive perspective, because you have to make sure, we have to make sure that the legislators or members of DFS really understand that we're all looking through the same lens, protecting our clients, because that's what the members of DFS that's their world, right? As far as they're concerned, their mission is noble, and it is protecting consumers. My contention, and I expressed this in that meeting, that we both share the same agenda, because my clients are they're my natural resource. That's how I make a living. That's how all our advisors make a living. So to not protect them would not be in anybody's best interest. And I think that's where a partnership and collaborative work is the way to move the needle.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening.
I totally agree. And I'm seeing so many changes in the last year here at NAIFA that mirror some of the work I've done in other licensed professions in New York State, dentists, veterinary medicine, engineering. We are really opening up communication doors at all levels, whether it's Department of Health or Department of Labor or Department of Financial Services. So we want to keep this newsletter succinct, and everyone knows if you give me the
Yeah.
microphone, I'm going to talk forever. So let's segue into another member benefit: programs. We are actively getting some programs together, and we have a scheduled program that just is about to be announced and launched on Monday, on August 16th. In October 29th and on October 31st, we're going to feature a program on artificial intelligence by Panos. And do you want to talk a little bit about the programs committee and some of the efforts that we're making with this kind of program, plus NAIFA Live programs and other webinars into 2026?
Yeah. So, and that's a great point. One of the things we realized as we assembled our board a few years ago, and to the positions we're currently holding, we realized that for the members, it's our responsibility not only to advocate on their behalf in front of the legislators and DFS, but also to provide educational content where possible. So we're making a concerted effort, and to in that vein, we've set up program committees, to
Yep.
have regularly scheduled content events set up. Some of them are in person, some are virtual, some are both. We're trying to get impactful speakers, and I'm really excited about the Panos, right? Panos is with
Panos, yep.
AI. That's going to be a great event. We're doing one upstate and one downstate, so that's going to be really great. And because I know that NAIFA members, they want to, again, back to the question: what do you guys do? What am I getting for my dues?
Yeah.
And I think that because the other efforts, the advocacy is such a grind, such an arduous, long-term grind, there needs to be some other, value added in the meantime. And that's what I think that these events are going to provide.
I couldn't agree more. We've been doing not just our annual conference that we've done in the fall in the previous years, as we just mentioned, coming. Panos Lelidakis is a MDRT speaker from Miami, Florida. He's a NAIFA member, and he's going to talk all about artificial intelligence and bring in podcasts and drones and avatars and actually show you live on stage how you can do all this. That's an in-person meeting held in New York City. But for those that say, well, I really just would rather do something local, we have NAIFA Live watch parties, and those are starting to grow. And I want to commend Tom Palmieri and Nick Limongelli on our board that have been pulling these together. We're probably going to want to wind up our newsletter, but video here, but do you want to just speak a little bit what a watch party is?
Yeah, I think the watch party is a great idea. And again, kudos to Tom, kudos to Nick. So basically, a watch party is you would you would host in a conference room, perhaps at your office, NAIFA members, and they would watch a presentation from another guest speaker of some sort. And you all watch it together. Now that can be done, and that's done from you can have it from multiple locations, right? And it's been a great success. It's been well received.
It really has. And we have just announced on our website, just to let members know, for the September 18th event, that's going to be celebrating Life Insurance Awareness Month, and there'll be a NAIFA Live panel of NAIFA national experts talking about how they have marketed, promoted, and branded that in their agency. And then in November 20th, we are featuring a Matt Halloran. He's an outstanding brand identity speaker. I've seen him in DC. Again, he's a NAIFA national speaker, but for that watch party, he will be talking about, hey, guess what? There's digital tools, there's AI, there's all kinds of automation, but at the end of the day, it's relationships and how do you build a personal brand identity. So for those two programs, September, November, we have watch parties happening in Syracuse, Buffalo, Rochester, Long Island, and I'm working on one in New York City. So you can register now on our website and you'll be able to click the location you want to go to, and lunch will be provided. So this is just a summary of some of the things we have going on. There's lots of other topics, but I would be talking for hours because I love to talk. So I think I just want to wrap this first newsletter up just to
Yeah.
wish everybody a happy summer and, just give Paul a chance to say a few words as president about, we will be meeting in October to do a strategic retreat with our board about plans for 2026 and just, some things that we're thinking about, you know.
Yeah, thanks, Jen. And again, I want to thank everybody, all our NAIFA members, loyal members, for their efforts and their contributions and to the work we do. And we're going to keep working for you. And we look forward to seeing you all, hopefully at some point in the field somewhere or at some kind of event. But in the meantime, have a great summer.
Awesome. All right. Take care, everybody. Contact me if
Bye.
you need me. See you later, Paul. It was great. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Bye.